Hey everyone, it's Dogfire, and it's time for another Dogfire Down and Dirty tech video. Today's tech video is a segue on the Angry Antle Machines video on using the right Allen wrench on small set screws that may be Loctited in. And if you haven't seen that, if I can link it, I'll try to link it around here somewhere. But it's either on Facebook or YouTube channel, Angry Antle. But we're going to talk a little bit about if you have a gunfighter frame and either you're sending it off to be anode, be a match anode, or if you're changing the trigger plate to like a Killshot Customs Delrin trigger plate. You know, how do you get these screws out if they're Loctited in with green Loctite, which is commonly referred to as FU glue? It's the Loctite of choice for shock tech. They do it for a reason, folks. Don't get mad at them. I used to get mad at them, but when you talk to Danny about it, he sells a complete marker that's going to be handed to a customer that they're going to put an air tank on, and they're going to the field and shoot. And with that, they want to make sure that it works every time, or if it's a tournament gun or whatever, that it just doesn't go down. So that's why he does that. He's not going to change his ways. Don't get mad at him. Let's just get smart on how to remove it when we need to do maintenance that needs to remove them or whatever. How do we do that? So Jason Antle talks about Allen heads and some other stuff on some of these screws. I'm going to segue a little bit further into some of the tools that I use. Okay, first off is get yourself a good quality set of Allens. I think Antle talks about it. I use the Bondus brand, and I have a Bondus with the ball tips, which I don't use on these. I use the square tip style. And that's what if you're going to be using on these guys. And then I have this in metric also. Okay, so the little screws you're trying to get out look like this. They're a 5/16 Allen, and there it is. That's the little glide screw. I can't remember what diameter it is. I think it's a 18 by 32 or something like that, or 6 by 32. I think 18, or it should be 8 by 32. But anyway, they're a little glide screw. They're stainless steel and they're super soft, right? So they're softer than the metal on your Allen, which is a hardened steel or harder steel. And so they will be prone to stripping. And if they are green Loctited in, they're very much easily prone to stripping if you're not careful. So what I recommend, really quickly go over this hopefully, is get your high quality in good condition. If you don't have a good condition, go buy a good one. 5/16 Allen, put it in there, and then just feel it and make sure it's all the way in, all the way fully in there. If there's dirt and stuff in there, clean this out. All right, make sure there's no rust or whatever. Clean it out with a little needle, whatever. Make sure that's all clean so you get a full engagement into that set screw or that glide screw, and then see if you can move it. Do not put a lot of force on it. If you feel that it's stuck in there, then it's time to go to a couple other techniques. One technique is go down and get yourself a soldering iron like this, and to go from the front side, you have to take a lot of the components out of the frame. Go from the front side, try to heat the screw. Okay, it takes about 250 degrees Celsius or 400 some degrees, like 425 degrees or something like that Fahrenheit, to start melting or burning the green Loctite away. Okay, so that's the temperature that you need to reach. That's from Loctite. And when it's that hot, then you want to start turning the screw and see if you can get it to turn. Remember, you're heating this up, so it's going to start softening that metal too. So you don't want to put a lot of pressure on that. So if you can get that going and it starts turning, then make sure you keep pouring the heat to it. Turn it a little bit, pour the heat to it, turn a little bit, pour the heat to it until the screw's out. If it gets stuck, when it cools down, it's gonna grab again. Okay. If it gets stuck, or if you want to try another technique, is what I like doing, is I get some acetone right there. My wife has a lot of beauty supplies and all these weird things. I get one of these little glass eyedroppers with the glass eyedropper parts, so I can hold acetone in it, or alcohol or whatever. I use acetone in this, and what I do is I go in here and I drop the acetone on top of that screw. I put the frame obviously in a vise in soft jaws. Soft jaws are dirt cheap. You can get them for dirt cheap. I'm on Amazon or your hardware store. Buy soft jaws. You don't have them. But I put that in and I let it sit. Don't mess with it. Just let it sit for a while. Walk away for 15 minutes. Come back. Drop a little bit more in there. Get your Allen. Put your Allen in there and start turning it. Put a little pressure on it and you'll feel it snap. If it snaps, stop. Drop more acetone in it. Let it set for another 15 minutes. And come back and just start wiggling it. Wiggling. You start feeling it. Starts to loosen up, drop a little more acetone in there. You're just trying to dissolve that. You're kind of eating down through layers and layers of the green Loctite. And eventually will just start spinning freely. You'll be able to spin it right out like normal. When you pull it out, you want to make sure that your set screw, if I can get up here, your set screw here, if it's egged out under a little force, don't throw the set screw away immediately, but do not reuse that set screw. Go on McMaster-Carr, buy new set screws. Use this as your exemplar. I think it's it's probably a 1/4 inch long by, I think it's 8 by 32, I think threads. I think that's what it is. Don't quote me on that. I don't remember. I'll post it somewhere if I remember. But anyway, just order new ones. They're dirt cheap, and then throw these in the garbage. Don't use them on any other stuff, just dump them in the garbage. You can run a little polish on the end if you want, polish up the end, but do that. But that's how I get this FU glue or the green Loctite removed, okay? Another option out there's a couple other options you can do. Loctite actually sells, basically it's a liquid that's just for that. It comes in a little 2-ounce bottle, something like this. And you do the same thing, you let it sit, and it's supposed to eat through there and eat it away. It's essentially nitromethane. Yeah, funny car fuel, okay? And toluene, which is another solvent, okay? So it's those two products mixed together, mostly nitromethane. And so if you know anyone that's into racing funny cars or stuff like that, nitromethane cars, get these little glass things to see if they'll give you a couple ounces of it. It's super expensive for nitromethane, but they should give you some. Make sure if you're using any of these chemicals, you use it in a well-ventilated areas. You have eye protection on, you have gloves on, which I don't have right now, but I'm not using it. And you're not around any flammable or any open flame source. Okay, just be cautious of that because it is very flammable. Be very careful on when you're doing that. The other thing is don't use the nitromethane fuel for RC cars. It has a lot of castor oils in it, and I don't know how well that's going to work. And so you just really want the solvent aspect of it. You don't want the oil. And so I think they use a different percentage of nitromethane. But you can do the same with that, and it should help get you that out, get these screws out for replacement of parts or maintenance or an anode change or something like that. Additionally is when you put these screws back in, you don't need to use green Loctite. They're not a dynamic screw in the essence that they're like a pump arm. I would call like a dynamic thread that it's got a shock load on it. That's where I do use green or blue Loctite. On these I use Vibratite. I do sell this at dogfirepaintball.com in little small vials. This is 111. And I use this on 90% of the parts on an autococker, except a couple things like my pump arms, things that are on a shock load, lugs. I try to buy a lug that has a nylon set screw, but this will work as long as I clean it. But I try to use it on things that don't have much of a shock load, which is 90% of the stuff on that cocker. And these screws do not have a shock load. They're merely an adjustment screw. When they get set, you're done. You shouldn't need to mess with them anymore. But that's kind of the PSA. I think there's anything else that I want to talk about. Acetone, nitromethane, heat will work. You don't want to use this because if you use this on your frame and try to heat this up and it's anodized, you're gonna cook that anodizing off. It's gonna discolor and look like crap. Do not heat the aluminum like that. It will ruin your anodizing. And I've seen that many times. I've actually done it by accident. Thank God it was on my stuff and no one else's. But just think of things like that. And outside of that, if you haven't gone to Angry Antle's YouTube or Facebook where he does a PSA on that, watch that. Make sure to support your small local vendors and your small online vendors like myself, Dr. Paintball, and Grianto, and NFT Customs. Just support all those guys. And if you can buy product from them, buy product from them. All right, that's it. Dr. out.